Well, welcome to the Variety Hour podcast. I know it's a fairly low-key intro, but I have to say this is like a crisis program. You know, even though we do this every Monday, whenever a giant news story, boils over in the real world, other programs, they have a crisis program. They break into normal programming like it's a terrorist attack or something even more important or something worse like ball tampering. This is what we've had to do with this week's Variety Hour. We're here, I'm Sergio Paradise, and I'm joined by two absolute legends of the game who have never been caught ball tampering. It's Titus O'Reilly and the great man Danny McGinlay.
Oh, well, when you say crisis, we are, of course, talking about Adelaide forcing a fifth game in the NBL finals.
Yeah, but nobody could have picked that.
What will the Tigers do? I mean, this is just a disaster. I say bring back Leonard Copeland. It's the only option.
The Nunawading inspectors were very rough not to miss out on this.
I tell you what, as an Australian cricket fan and as a Melbourne supporter, that weekend
was it a shocker?
It was just terrible. But to the point where the Melbourne lost, which we'll get into, but that was almost not the worst part of my weekend.
Yeah, well, thankfully we can turn to the Socceroos to give us hope. Oh, crap.
We should
How bad are we going nationally?
Before we get into all this, because I think this is going to be like an 8-hour podcast, we should just thank all our supporters. Had a couple more come on last week. Without supporters, we really couldn't do this podcast, and we also couldn't do the writing I do, like the Monday knee-jerk reaction. First one up today on round one, and we'll get into a bit of that in a second.
Were you happy with your first knee-jerk? Because you said you had a big pre-season.
Had a big pre-season, and it just really, really felt good.
You're straight into form.
He knee-jerked so hard he almost did his ACL.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Western Bulldogs start to the season. It was a bit better.
It's a bit stronger than that.
Yeah, not quite as good as Port Adelaide's, but so I should mention the Comedy Festival kicks off on Thursday. So my first show's this Thursday, and I'm doing 21 nights at the Imperial Hotel up on the corner of Burke and Spring. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to
go over beer beforehand.
Yeah,
the old Imperial. When I was at uni, I spent hundreds of dollars in 20-cent pieces on the pinball machines at the Imperial.
Is there any bar that you can't say you've spent hundreds of dollars at?
Well, now hundreds of dollars will buy you one beer at the Imperial.
Especially during my uni days. Spent most of my time.
So I'd love to see people come down. And look, it couldn't be better what the Australian cricket team have done for me this week. So
have you had to rewrite everything in the last day?
Well, you're assuming I've written it.
I have that famed improviser, Titus O'Reilly. Goes Ross Noble, Robin Williams, Titus O'Reilly.
And now I should also mention, so I start Thursday. Danny McGinlay, when did you start?
Tuesday, the 10th of April. I do the last 2 weeks.
You're doing the last 2 weeks,
yeah.
Right. So, and you're at the
European Beer Cafe. Although I got they plugged it on game day yesterday, and Hamish McLaughlin was clearly distracted and went, he's playing the Melbourne Beer Cafe Festival.
Right.
In Europe.
In Europe, yeah.
That's not like a Channel 7 commentator getting something wrong. Now, we have to get into ball tampering. And I like to say, I woke up to the news that there's a probe into ball tampering.
Oh, nice.
This is, most people, I mean, no one else is covering this story, obviously, so people might not be across it, but this story is just doing my head in that. And I think we were talking off air before this. It's partly the cheating, but the stupidity that occurred around the cheating seems to be the thing that's got people just absolutely
just waking up yesterday on the Sunday to go, really?
Yeah.
Is this true?
Yeah.
I mean, because everyone, here in Australia, we all found out when we got up Sunday morning, and it was just the most bizarre thing to hit you over the head with.
Well, it was funny because when the coverage was on the night before, they kept zooming in. So the South African cameraman or the coverage is taken from the South African feed, but then the commentary is often like Warren and others are added to do the Australian version. And so the South African coverage was zooming in the whole time on Bancroft and all the Australian players, and you could tell something was going on, but the Australian commentators, Warney especially, just refused to say anything about it.
Just wouldn't acknowledge it.
So it'd just be like
what was he talking about? His crotch? Just going, he's a big unit.
He's talking about his favourite pizza. But it was just like, it would be like a zoom on Bancroft's crotch. That's hard to say, Bancroft's crotch. For like about, in slow motion for about, 5 minutes, and you'd be going, what's going on here? Yeah. And Warnie would be talking about, just a normal game, nothing's happening. And I was thinking, what's going on? And then online it was just going... Yeah. All the South African commentators were just saying on the tweeters were just saying...
What time of morning was it, our time, that this all
early, because it was after lunch.
So still before midnight. So there would have been some Aussies watching.
Yeah, there were some, the hardcore and, and I didn't really pick up on it enough because I sort of thought, maybe, but I didn't see the bit with the yellow tape as clearly because I was half watching and then I went to bed. That's my biggest
issue. Why yellow tape? White masking tape is way easier to find and you can camouflage it with your cricket wipes.
You can get it anywhere.
Yellow.
Even in South Africa, I reckon you can probably...
It's fucking day glow, you
Although
idiot.
white tape, not easy to find in South Africa.
Well, that's right, but I think they originally were going to go with hot pink, so it was actually, a step in the right direction going yellow. Look, the whole process of this is mind-boggling to me if you look through it, and it's first, day 3, they decide, if you believe what they're saying, right, at lunchtime on day 3 of a test that they've pretty much almost lost. Even if they cheat and it goes well, they're still probably going to lose or at best draw. So it's not like it's... So they're saying that they suddenly at that point decide to cheat. Now, to me... Now, the subsequent events show they're stupid enough to maybe think that's a good idea, but it does suggest to me that this was not... Lunchtime on day 3 was not their first moment of thinking of this.
No.
Yeah, it's not like Port Adelaide at three-quarter time in the 2007 Grand Final went, all right, what if we get some peptides right now? We can still save this.
Because that's the point. Like, the game was over pretty much when, according to their narrative of when they decided this. Yeah, so you're like, what are you doing it for?
It's like they're at lunch and they're going, hey, Painey, pass me the sandwiches, the chicken sandwiches. No, the salad. Oh, by the way... Yeah. By the way, why don't we cheat for the rest of the game?
Yeah. So there's that bit that's first bit. The second bit is, of course, the way they go. One, giving it to Bancroft and sort of throwing him under the bus.
Stool pigeon will be his nickname forever. Patsy Bancroft.
And I'm not happy with Bancroft because they threw him under the bus, and the Australian thing to do would be to have stayed under the bus and not let the others that said, I acted alone.
Yeah.
Where's he? Where's his sense of team?
Yeah, I think he'll be deported.
Yeah, the idea, take one for the team. So and that's the only good thing you can say about this. Once it became obvious that Bancroft was caught, the others did at least or Smith especially did put his hand up and say, didn't just leave Bancroft out there on his own. He probably couldn't have, but at least it's the only positive thing I can hang my hat on in this whole thing. So then they think, let's get this yellow tape, to your point. It's not even a subtle thing. And there were 30 cameras at the ground.
Yeah, just the lazy 30.
Like... At what point did anyone think they were... The only thing that makes me think they thought they could get away with it is they have been getting away with it.
Well, I was just about to say, I think the only reason, surely, is that they must have been, or not must have been, have they been doing this for quite some time and, as you say, got away with it? Oh, we'll just do it in this game as well.
I think the argument people are making is all cricket teams have been doing this. This has not been a...
Yeah,
it's all where on the spectrum you are. Are you doing it with, you got... a mint in your mouth and you lick the saliva, the sticky saliva, and use that, or even scuffing the ball along the pitch when you throw it in from the outfield. And there's all these. There's that end of the spectrum.
A handkerchief soaked in eucalyptus oil was an old one.
So right through to.
Cricketers have a lot of things in their pockets.
They've got a lot of time. They've got a lot of
bum bags under there.
There's a lot of time to think about
utility belts.
And then right through to getting a bottle cap to scratch the side. So it can get from the relatively benign to the serious. And
why not just carry another ball in your pockets and then just use that?
I'm sure that's been tried. I don't think there's only cycling puts as much effort into thinking about
tennis ball with red tape around.
Yeah, just do that.
So you had all this. So I don't think they necessarily are Robinson Crusoe in this completely. Although I do note the worst defence ever is when people say you get caught doing something terrible and fans of teams do this a lot. They go, "Oh, what about this team once did it?
What aboutery? My favourite thing.
Yeah,
in
or
sports.
pointing at someone else's. Yeah. It's like try that if you ever get caught cheating with your partner, saying, "Well, what about Jeff? He cheated on his wife that time." Like it's not an argument that anyone in the history of time has gone, "Oh, fair point. Could be fair point."
I'll stop sleeping with Jeff then.
Cheated on her, but at least I didn't have to pay her off.
So this all happened, and you're sort of thinking, like, there's so many levels of stupidity along the way here. The big other question that comes out of it is whether Lehman had any knowledge. It seems that Warner and Smith and Bancroft were the three that were definitely in
the brains trust.
Yeah, so it's called.
There's a Mensa meeting right there. It's either we work out how to cheat in this game or invent a quantum computer. Sadly, that shows how to cheat.
That's right. So that was sort of the Lehman's role in this is the great unknown at the moment.
Yeah, that will.
I think he might be done even if no one can prove it. I think the suspicion is so much, and the fact that it happened on his watch means James Sutherland is going to have to throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, there's no question. And you're right. And it's not just going to be Smith or Bancroft. Or even if Davey Warner goes, "Oh, mate, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't
Well, Warner's, I think, admitted basically he was part of the discussion. So,
I think Lehman had. I mean, they all have to go. At least those four.
Well, Smith said it was the leadership group.
So that's Smith.
Yep.
Warner, Stark, and was one more.
Nathan Lyon.
All New South Welshmen. Can we just point that out? All New South Wales.
That is a very good point.
Obvious thing here: ban New South Wales players from wearing a baggy green.
And
of course, they got Bancroft is a sand grouper. They got a West Australian to be the patsy.
That's right.
That's just typical.
Would have been a Victorian, but we can't get.
No wonder WA want to secede from this country.
I'm surprised they used Bancroft. Kawaja. If it had been Usman,
Josh Hazelwood is also in that leadership group too.
Is he? Where's he from?
And he's in it, yeah. And one of the things that apparently was a bit tense is Smith does this sit-down media conference the next morning, or after the game at morning our time, and says the senior players leadership group came up with this idea. And it appears, he said leadership group, but really he meant he's clarified senior players, which is him and David Warner, because Stark and
Lyon aren't quite as senior as those two.
And they all said, hang on, we did not know this was going on. This was very much you two. So they got a bit annoyed. So Smith's come out and clarified that a little bit to say it was him and Warner, which I still find amazing. It's just him, Warner, and then Bancroft goes, Okay, no worries.
Righto.
I'll do it.
Done. Yeah.
Unless this is not strange for the Australians to be doing, where he went.
That's the question.
It's my turn. Everyone does it all the time. They could have got someone more subtle, basically, someone who was better at it. So that all happens.
I still reckon they could have got Kawaja instead of Bancroft, because then if they got caught, they could always point the finger at him, So look at him, he's not really Australian.
On top of this, though, what I found amazing is the whole reaction to it was James Sutherland, the chief executive of Cricket Australia, comes out and does the media conference.
Did you see it yesterday?
The Sunday morning.
Yeah, watch that live.
Which was a train wreck happening in real time. It was quite amazing. And the thing that just blew my mind, so, it's 12 hours since the incident's passed. And even with time difference, James Sutherland in the media conference admits he hasn't spoken to Smith yet. Like, if only we had phones that reached all the way to South Africa. Like, what? How do
you can't Skype over there either.
How do you get to the point where, he hasn't even, he knows he's about to get a media conference. One of the first questions is, have you spoken to Steve Smith?
Yeah.
Like, if you're advising him, whether it's a media advisor or the people around him, that's the first thing to say. He should have at least been able to say, I've called Stephen Smith and expressed my deep disappointment.
Send a text like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Wait till your father gets home.
I mean, some of the media people and some of the apologists a bit for Sutherland yesterday were saying, oh no, it was right that he hadn't rung him, because if the CEO is ringing the captain, it compromises the test match, which is complete and utter bullshit.
It was this nonsense. I mean, he should have at least said, I would have appreciated if he just said, I've rung to express on behalf of Cricket Australia the disappointment to both Bancroft and Smith and to Darren Lehman, like even, or even if he did it, and then said, but I didn't go into any details because I didn't want to. I didn't ask them any questions about it because I want the investigation to do that, but I did express our disappointment. Yeah. It was just another little misstep.
What does that mean, expressing disappointment? Did he send a frowny emoji?
Well, he didn't do that. He didn't do anything. So
that's the thing. He came off far too soft in this. Now, you sort of understand him. I would have understood if he came out and said, look, as far as punishments are concerned or sanctions or whatever, we're not going to jump off the deep end right now until we know all the facts. You understand that? But then he should have said, but if it's as true or as what appears to have happened... But they've admitted
it by this point.
Yeah. If what they've admitted to is actually the case, let me tell you, heads are going to roll.
Yeah. Well, then they sent out then he sent out an email to lots of people.
They sort of did. But,
what did that say? The email?
And that was much more like, we've really let down the fans. We understand why you're angry. We're angry too. It was a much more of that tone. It was obviously they'd read that his media conference had not gone down well, and so they sent out this follow-up.
They're tone deaf sometimes. The sporting administrators.
The bigger question of this, right, is all goes to, organisations would look at this and say, this goes to culture. Why did they think that this was permissible? Like, what was this? Whenever there's like in banks, say, whenever there's like an insider trading or rogue trading desk or someone who feels the need to, they can get away with cheating or feels that they look at, the organisations always look at, were we putting pressure on them through ridiculous targets? Were not embedding the right culture? Were we not like, what was sending? They never look at it in isolation like, oh, we just had a bad apple. If it's a few people, they start to look at what did we do wrong. Now that's where this goes right up to the top of Cricket Australia, where for years they've got form on this. They've treating the players like, like they're gods and can't really be touched. I mean, you think about it, people keep saying, oh, you've got to go back to the 1970s where the underarm bowling incident to find a scandal even close to this. And I'm like, hang on, you've got Mark Waugh and Shane Warne taking money from an Indian bookie. Yeah. The Australian Cricket Board found that out in 1995 and they covered it up and didn't tell the media or anyone until it leaked in, I think it was 98. Yeah. So you've already got, like, they've sent that signal that we will protect it. Then since then, you've had Warne found guilty of taking a banned substance. It's a banned substance. Like, he says, oh, it wasn't performance enhancing, but you go, well, hang on. There's a reason it's on. It's a masking agent for doping. So even if you weren't,
what, it suddenly made you thinner and your teeth whiter.
Yeah, that's right. So even if you, so there once again, everyone sort of did this thing where Channel 9, who are very close to the Australian Cricket Board or Cricket Australia as it's now known, they let him commentate that year that he was banned. So there's this culture here of you'll be right, don't worry, no matter what the thing, and then there's been all this pressure over there with, them going to war with South Africa basically on the field. So I
think a lot of this has been, over the years, an escalating level of arrogance amongst the players and probably to a lesser extent the officials, to the point where, and every year the players make more money and they all make millions every year in playing in India in the IPL. And even, it's probably got nothing to do with it, but even 12 months ago when the players held Cricket Australia over a barrel and threatened to, go on strike unless they got what they wanted in their new pay deal, there just seems to be, as I say, an escalating level of arrogance, which is reaching the point where when we saw Steve Smith and Bancroft's press conference yesterday morning, Smith, he sort of didn't really indicate that he understood the severity of what he may have done. It was like,
boys will be boys.
Yeah, and he even used that terrible phrase, we'll learn from this.
Oh, yeah, you will.
What learn not to cheat? You learn that in under eights,
Remember when they were worried they wanted the stump mic turned down? Yeah. And we thought it was because they were going to say horrible things, but really it was to mask the sticky tape sound.
Yeah.
Well, they should have also got the cameras turned off.
Well, yeah.
That was where they were really foolish about all that. Now, the other thing that I find kind of interesting in this is the Australian Sports Commission's come out, who's the federal body that basically distributes funds across sports. They've come out and called for Smith to be immediately sacked.
Yeah.
Stood down, and possibly others too, including Bancroft and possibly Lehman. So they've come out and taken a very hard stance. They have a bit of influence in that they're obviously, part of the federal government, and therefore a whole bunch of potential deals around stadiums and funding of various things. They can withdraw that. They only last financial year, I think it was, only gave cricket at a grassroots participation level about $900,000, so just under $1 million. Yeah. Other years they've gone up to about $1.5 million, but because cricket's got its own revenue streams, they don't tend to. So they don't have the power necessarily to pull huge amounts of funding from cricket. Although, and you'd sort of think if they did, they're pulling it out of the grassroots, not actually the. Yeah. But where it is interesting is if they decide they can make life difficult for Cricket Australia if they want to.
So really, the only person with power here too could actually make a big change is Colonel Sanders. KFC,
that's right.
Exactly. All their sponsorship.
Well, I think you're right. Like Qantas and KFC.
Colonel Sanders, he was in favour of man-catting, so it's just
not going to be
double standards.
You're not far off the money because I think it was just the other day or even today that the Cricket Australia wanted, because they're trying to negotiate a new TV rights deal, and just last week Cricket Australia went back to the networks 7, 9, 10 and Foxtel and said, come on boys, you're going to have to up your ante here, it's not quite high enough. It's too low. Now the bloke whose job I envy the least now is the bloke at Cricket Australia who is now getting the phone calls from Channel 10 and go, you know what, we're not putting in any more money. In fact, our last week's bid, we're dropping that by 20% because how in the hell are we going to sell sponsors to a bunch of cheats like you?
Well, this is the thing.
The timing is just horrendous on every level.
You're spot on. The timing could not be worse for Cricket Australia, regardless of the severity of it. I mean, the interesting thing is Smith has been banned for the 4th test, and he'd care.
He's on a plane now.
Yeah, well, there's no point in him staying over there. And then,
but he's going to Canada, wherever there's not cricket. That's where he's going to go.
That won't be a shit fight when he gets off the plane in Sydney, will it?
Oh yeah.
And Bancroft though has just got not enough demerit points to actually. He can technically be. He won't be, I'm sure, but he can be chosen for the 4th test. So actually, under the ICC rules, ball tampering only comes with a 1-match suspension. It's not a
sackable offence.
Well, this is where the reaction from the Australian public is about the cheating and the organised nature of the cheating. Like if it had have just been Bancroft had just gone, look, I was stupid and I tried to. It's the fact that the captain, the vice captain, all got together, and that's what people are reacting to because
the conspiracy of the thing is what people are upset
the actual crime they committed. It's sort of like if you all decided in a way to commit a crime like go and shoplift something. The crime itself is not that big. It's just the fact you all sat around, thought about it, and got a younger guy to do it is, I think, what is
Which
most
is what
people
I actually
are
did
reacting.
when I was at school. I ran a very successful shoplifting ring.
We like Fagin out of the Dickens novel.
He's Danny Ocean.
We used to steal
Sergio's 11. It was a great film.
We used to knock off records and CDs. We used to take orders off the 4 and 6 kids on Fridays, knock them off on the Saturday and cash them in on the Monday.
And that's why Brashers have gone under, Sergio.
And Allen's.
You know that Mike's on.
Allen's at Chatston was our prime time.
You know that Mike's on, Serge, just while you're
confessing to my crimes.
If the police want to contact me for Serge's address.
I think the statute of limitations on knocking off Kiss Alive on vinyl is probably gone.
Indecent Obsession never made another album.
Perhaps the most disturbing thing out of this entire debacle
I think I know where you're going.
Was that Michael Clarke has said he's willing to come back and captain Australia. Now, I know things are bad, but are they, let's get Michael Clarke back?
I just love the fact that this whole thing is just blown up as big as it
biggest story in cricket for years, history,
and Michael Clarke has to make it about him.
It is a stunning ability to do that, doesn't he? I thought, who would want Michael Clarke back? But then I did realise that if he came back as captain, that gets him out of the commentary box.
Oh, that's handy.
So I'm not as against it as originally thought. I thought.
Are there any other captains? Who else could we get back?
Steve Waugh.
Why didn't Payne?
Bob Simpson?
Do you think
now we're talking?
Do you think Payne just happened to be out of the room when they came up with it, and that's why he's captain?
Possibly.
He had a
Who we
bathroom
get,
break. Went out for a smoke,
Yeah.
comes back in. What are you guys talking
Planey,
about?
you're the skipper, you know.
That's right. I reckon he's probably one of the few. The Marsh brothers have to come up and end up.
What about Graham Yallop?
Yeah, no, what's he doing?
Murph Hughes isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
How much
Murphy.
How would you be excited to watch something? You know, when they
I'd love
play
to
like a
see.
Legends match?
Yeah,
But
I'm about to
the
say.
series is lost anyway. Let's throw in Alan Border and Murph.
Kim Hughes.
Yes.
You know.
Steve Wixon wrote in. We got a lot of questions on this. As an Essendon supporter, how much indignation can I comfortably show towards the Australian cricket team? It is a tricky one. I think you should
There's
show...
a lot of, not just Essendon, there's a lot of football supporters weighing up that option this weekend, I reckon.
Well, I think, Steve, my advice is go hard because it distracts from... At least we didn't shine one side of a ball. There are a few differences between the Essendon one. This one, they've come out and admitted straight up they cheated. Essendon...
Denied it.
still.
They've still denied that, it was a bit of an oversight.
Another court case happened last week, I think.
It's still in court,
we
yeah.
go.
So.
James Hird was a pretty handy batsman in his day. Maybe they could get
Was he?
him over.
Get him over?
Sure.
That would fix those. Keegan wrote in, will Tom Mitchell earn a call-up to the test team with his average of 54?
Pretty good. As long as
That's a good question.
anything that stops Hawthorn from being actually good again, I'm fine with that.
That's right. Braden Lee wrote in, should you need to pass an IQ test to play for the Australian cricket team?
Clearly not, Braden.
Well,
You
I'd
have to
say
fail it.
I'd say to Braden, if we impose that, basically, very
All
few...
sports are dead.
Yeah, very
the
few
NRL
players.
would be 3 blocks.
Imagine the NRL. Professional sport would take a massive hit across.
There's a reason there's not an IQ test in all of this. Ace Ventura. Good to hear from Ace.
Oh, what's he up to?
He's asked what else does Bancroft keep down his undies?
I think that may have been the real Ace Ventura with a question like that.
Is he going to twist Bancroft round and there's a penis coming out? Anyway, sorry.
It is surprising that Bancroft, you could tell there was nothing worse. He's getting caught, but then when he so obviously put it down his pants.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just drop it or something?
And then when the
remember
umpire
when,
said,
if you were
what do you got?
smoking and someone caught you and you just drop
hide
the
it in
cigarette.
Just drop it and grind it into the...
Yeah, I was holding it for a friend. He could have said that.
I thought it was a banana.
And Thea Walsh wrote in, did you put the Cricket Australia team up to this to ensure you had plenty of material for the comedy festival? Spot on there. That's
right
like
for money
that's
there.
half an hour of my hour act right there.
I actually got the
These
Bulldogs
blokes
to
are writing
lose.
jokes as we speak.
I got the Bulldogs to lose so all the fans would be depressed and need a laugh and come to my show.
That's right. You had the Premiership show post the win,
And
now
this
you
show's
can,
called Premiership Hangover.
yeah, big hangover.
Well, that's why we lost on Sunday, by the way. AFLW Premiership Hangover.
You're right away. That's right. Ed Burke wrote in, is Michael Clark also opening to coaching Collingwood if he's offered the position?
I'm sure he would.
I think Clark's up to anything.
He'd back himself in for it.
Snert Underpants wrote in. It's a great name.
I've been hearing a bit too much from Snert lately.
He
I've
does
got to say, on
contact.
Twitter.
Do you think the yellow tape affair will be the end of Dave Warner's political aspirations or enhance them?
Well,
It is hard
he
to
hasn't
tell.
picked a political side yet, has he?
No.
So
Tell you,
that all
the only
depends.
bloke who's most happy about this ball tampering thing is Daniel Andrews. I reckon it's got his cheating off the front.
Well,
page.
him and Buckley. There's a few,
Yeah.
and just wait to see what the AFL announced today, when everyone's not watching.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because I've heard they've knocked off Harmony round.
Multicultural round.
Multicultural round.
Multicultural round is not happening this year.
Oh, is that right?
What they've done is they've passed it on to the clubs. The clubs can decide,
Which
when
is their
they
way of
play
saying you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah. And I know.
And then they can say, well, the clubs chose not to do it.
So are they going to replace it with another token round,
they
or
said
just have and it's just an actual game?
Yeah, white man
9
round,
games
because we
of
don't get
footy.
enough recognition.
Apparently, clubs can choose it, and I've heard the Tigers and the Bulldogs discussing their one being celebrating the Vietnamese communities of both of them, which is nice.
Right.
But still no Ukrainian celebration this week, which is
you're very bitter about that. Blake Reynolds wrote in, will Serge finally get to cross the picket line to captain Australia? He is the skipper the country deserves.
I like the first sentence.
This
I
is
think it
true.
might be- The second one might be pushing it.
Well,
a
I
tad.
don't think you even need to cross the picket line
Well,
now,
so,
because you
I
can
mean,
just...
what Blake's
everyone's
getting
fallen over in front of you.
is
you Bradbury'd it.
yeah. Well, last year when the Australian cricketers threatened to strike, I immediately put my hand up to get a baggy green and play in the Ashes series.
Scabbio Paradise.
Yeah,
You're a bit like Michael Clark in that.
as I said to Titus, I was more than happy to cross any picket line and be dubbed a scab for the rest of my life just to play for Australia. Yeah. And I didn't get the call then, and I have a feeling I'm probably not going to get the call now either. But I'm more than willing to do so.
Luke Ablett, former Sydney Swans player.
He's a legend.
He wrote in, has the line been crossed yet? This is the line that Australia are always talking there. They're always probing the line, they say. Yeah. They usually say that just after they well and truly walked over the line and everyone knows they did.
They've long jumped and crossed it. But that's a short, sharp question from Luke, and it's not a bad one.
Well, but it's a bit like Australian cricket.
Titus has answer him. Has the line been crossed yet?
Saying the Australian cricket has the Australian cricket, is this the time the Australian cricket team has crossed the line? Is a bit like saying this is the time America's lost its innocence. It happens like every few, you know what I mean? It happens every few years.
Or every couple of weeks.
Yeah. It's not like we need to go to see if the no ball, the foot was over the line. I think we can just call it. The arm is out. No ball.
It's not even close. C. Tips wrote in, Michael Clark has put his hand up to captain Australia in the 4th test. Is this what civilization deserves for letting the last white rhino die?
Jeez, he's trying to drag two stories in at once there.
But I think he's probably underselling the, what we deserve,
Yeah, anyway, Trump is what we deserve for the rhino thing.
Imagine Clark came back.
It'd be hilarious.
There's no way. He's not. He didn't even like. Remember, his comeback is technically still on foot. He announced it. He went and played one game of suburban cricket basically, and then stopped. Realised that it wasn't as fun.
But you know what? Now Michael Clark, if he did come back, he'd probably bloody make 200 or something in the first innings, and it just would shut idiots like us up completely.
Colin Foster wrote in, why were the South African cameramen focusing on the cricket instead of looking for the most scantily dressed women in the crowd? If anyone's watched South African cricket and this cut test, that is all they do. It's sort of back to the 80s in Australia. Like
80s? What are you talking about? We still do it.
No, not like the South African. It's like there was this moment in the first test where they had these two promo girls all in mini skirts and and I think they missed several overs just filming what they were up to. Now that's the time to put the yellow tape down your pants, but it was kind of amazing how much. Like I know the Australians still occasionally cameramen will do it every now and then, but not like this. This was like it was just so blatantly obvious.
I think the Australian coverage got turned off that a bit earlier during the Ashes series when they had that swimming pool at the Gabba. And they cut to it at one stage, and all there was a really fat bloke having a fag sitting in the pool. I reckon the camera guy had been on a girl in a bikini.
And because Warnie was supposed to be in the commentary box. I don't know why he was in there.
Victor Young wrote in, will Jared Hayne fulfil his dream to wear a baggy green?
Wouldn't put it past him.
Hasn't he already played for Fiji, though?
Does that is playing Fiji and sevens rule you out for the Australian cricket team?
I think it shouldn't, but it does.
Adam Mason wrote in, is gifting South Africa the high moral ground the most distressing aspect of this saga?
That's a fair point.
I tell you what, Adam, you've nailed it. This is where I feel the fact that England, who were all out for 56 or something, they've been terrible against New Zealand, England. It's been a joy to watch, and we can't even really enjoy that now.
That's right. So the South Africans now, we might have had apartheid for generations, but hey, we didn't cheat on the cricket field.
That's right. You've got to learn how to compartmentalise. Just shut off the Australian shame and focus on England.
Well, this is how I remember Essendon fans at the time felt when Collingwood got a couple of players caught for positive drug tests.
Oh, yeah.
And the Essendon fans were, damn it, we would have normally loved this.
Yeah.
Moving on. Well, I think, let's see. That's going to develop over the next few days and weeks. Who knows what happened? Do we think they're going to all get long, lengthy suspensions?
I think they have to. As I said sort of before, I think, Smith, Warner, and maybe to a lesser extent Bancroft, they have to be suspended for a substantial length of time, if not for cheating, just for their sheer stupidity. I think they've forfeited their right to lead Australia on the cricket field.
Well, Cricket Australia are the ones that
dumb.
The ICC aren't going to do it, so it's going to have to be the Australian Cricket Australia who's got to decide, and it's sort of against their interests to suspend them forever. They'll be wanting to do like what
they want to make it
they did with what Collingwood are doing with Jordan De Goey, which is we're suspending him indefinitely, which is 4 weeks.
Yeah, that got round one. Yeah,
So
yes, stand him down for a year at least. I think.
Well, the thing is, though, Warren got a year for taking a banned substance, where there's no way you can argue that tampering with a cricket ball is as bad as a banned substance in my mind.
But conspiring to.
Yeah, that's the bit.
Yeah. That's the thing that makes the whole thing 10 times worse.
But I think that Smiths won't be. None of them will be in leadership positions probably again. No. But how many?
Except when Warner's Prime Minister.
Yeah. But how many centuries does Smith need to have everyone forgive him?
It would be
again?
Interesting if the Ashes tour was about to start in a month.
Good point.
You know what would have happened then? Suddenly it would have been. Let it go through. He would have been fine.
Amazing. The thing is, this weekend was a huge weekend of sport, even without all of this, to the point where this has overshadowed a lot of things. One was the AFLW Grand Final, which was played in not great conditions in terms of the rain. So
and also the stadium.
Yeah.
And the toilets all overflowed.
Did they?
Yeah.
Prince's Park.
The John Elliott's Oval.
Yes. All the toilets were overflowing. There was no kick on the ground afterwards because people were worried people would get electrocuted because they had to put the speakers out there for the presentation.
Missy Higgins pulled the pin in the pre-match.
Yeah.
Really?
So it wasn't all bad.
I missed all this. I watched it, but I didn't see that bit. Why did she pull the pin?
Because it was too dangerous.
It was too wet.
All right.
She still would have got paid though.
Yes.
Which is
they're the best gigs.
Oh man, you show up to the venue and no one's there. Sorry, mate, you still got to pay me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what's that like?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I was there, and look, something that no one has spoken about with the AFLW Grand Final. Brilliant contest, great skill, great win by the Bulldogs. Lions are such a good side, and I'm sorry that they got heartbroken again. There was a streaker at the end of the game.
I saw that bit. I saw.
How did you? So that was on.
That
TV?
was on social media.
Male or female?
Female, topless, doing it properly. Well done to the grassroots AFLW fans.
Okay,
what a champion! Because if you run onto the field and you're fully clothed, you are a nuisance. You're a pest. If you have nudity, even partial, legend.
We said a year ago, AFLW will not be a legitimate sport until they have some really stupid scandal. And while that's not a stupid scandal, it's getting there. It's a start.
We need the Bulldogs players today to do something really.
We need it.
Like maybe set a pub on fire or something.
Some mad Monday.
Yeah. Get caught running a drug ring or something. Yeah. They really need to get up past Cricket Australia, though. They've
maybe
really
one
got
of
to
the
do
boyfriends wearing the medal is in a dick pic.
Yeah, that's right. Like we need something really crazy.
The whole back line to black up or something when they go to the pub.
See, that's the most likely of all the scenarios we've just gone through. It was an interesting contest. It was terrible conditions. The Bulldogs won. It was close right down to the end. Ellie Blackburn, who was the stand-in Bulldogs skipper for an injured Katie Brennan, got Katie Brennan
suspended. Katie Brennan.
Suspended. Sorry,
because we predicted Paul Groves, the coach, would call her up because that's what Bevo did, and clearly they discussed it, and Ellie said no, I want to bring her up. So Paul Groves made his speech, and then walked. Because the way Bevo did it was brilliant. Made his speech, went to leave the microphone, then went, hang on, I'd like to call Bob Murphy up to the stand.
Yeah.
And Groves finished his speech and walked off, and we went, he's going to do it. And he walked off and went, boo! We started booing him from the other side.
But what was it like? I understand the Bob Murphy thing, right? An injury, doyen of the club.
And he's
Katie was suspended.
She was suspended unfairly. That was not worse than Trent Cotchin taking out that GWS player's head.
But it was their second offence.
But if as has been said, if she was a man, she would have got a fine. Why not give her a fine and pro-rata it to a woman's pay?
So it'd be like $7.
Yeah, exactly. She can afford that.
I do like that it's going to the Human Rights Commission. It was only a matter of time for the AFL to end up there. I'm actually shocked it's taken this long.
Apparently, I was told that Gil McLaughlin was there and with all the club presidents and everything, and Gil and Peter Gordon had a robust discussion. As the phrase.
Oh, why did I get that YouTube video of Gillen's pug doing the Nazi salute?
But look, the other thing you got to remember is just talking about how good the Bulldogs were. Brisbane women's team play in wet season. They are used to monsoonal conditions, and we still won.
That's a good point, actually.
That's really fantastic work by the Bulldogs.
It was a great win. I think the amazing thing is it really showed when you had that on starting at 12:30, and then you didn't have any AFL starting till 3:30. Much better to have it the week next time, and I'm not even being really critical. It's they've done it a few times now. You get into your third season, you learn some things. I think next year you have to have that women's grand final onto itself on the Saturday.
It has to stand alone.
No other games.
No other games.
It has to stand alone.
Yeah.
And you know,
and maybe a night game. Night game for
I was
the
just
men's.
about to say that'd be the one time they can do a grand final at night and have the full shebang. You can imagine the lights and the fireworks.
And there's no other week footy that weekend, so everyone will actually be keen and will
just no other footy that day. Like maybe the men can play on the Friday and the Sunday.
You've got that week in between sort of JLT and AFL. Like it's starting. It's the perfect weekend. You don't need any other footy.
The AFL, they justified it, as they always do, in 20 different ways. But it just seemed to me, starting at 12 o'clock on a day where there's 3 other men's games,
but then
it just seemed they showed a lack of
But then they all got pushed back too, so it was really weird. Like, I watched the AFLW Grand Final, and then there's like an hour or so, you had to wait a whole hour without football. Terrible.
I blame
with
Pat
my own thoughts.
I blame Pat Howard, but he's on his way to South Africa.
Let's get to round 1 because it was actually a very entertaining round. It was great to have the AFL
There were some good
back.
games of footy.
Not footy back, because footy's been back a while, of course.
Men's footy was back.
Don't make that mistake.
I'm not Scott Pendlebury. I don't hate women.
Are we starting with the Tigers and the Blues? Because I want to give a shout out. Well done to the Tigers, because it's very hard to win that first game, especially considering they only had a 173-day break, whereas Carlton had 213. So there's a big difference there.
40 days.
Do you remember, now cast your mind back a year ago, where Richmond were? They'd just come off the terrible 2016 season.
Oh, it was good times.
Do you remember, so this Thursday, that opening game, Carlton-Richmond last season, what was their plan for pre-game entertainment? Richmond's plan to kick off the season?
Was it a live tiger on
no,
the field?
It was Daryl Braithwaite singing horses while 4 white horses rode around the boundary line.
Oh,
the MC
as the opening. Now,
you're right.
They had to cancel the white horses at the last minute because the grounds people at the MCG said, not on your life. Yeah. And the Richmond examined, I think, putting down another surface, but the horses would slip over on it, so that didn't work. So they just had Daryl Braithwaite.
Didn't they try and cancel
singing
Daryl
horses?
Just
they paid them that $8 deposit on him. So instead, this year, fast forward a whole year, and instead of having Daryl Braithwaite and horses trotting around, they unfurl the premiership flag,
which is a bit hack. I mean, the Bulldogs did that a year ago.
Yeah, it's you could have. So they missed out on Braithwaite singing horses. It's a big change in a year.
I still prefer the 4 white horses, I think.
They should get. You were saying a live tiger. Why don't they get like Siegfried and Roy? I know it's just Siegfried now, but
well, remember up in Brisbane they wanted to have a live lion for a while.
Yeah,
that was one of the great ideas, and that got shot down pretty quickly.
And there's that great photo that pops up. The Herald Sun seemed to run every now and then for whatever reason. I think back in the early 70s. North Melbourne.
Oh, the elephant.
They had the elephant at Arden Street.
Yes.
It was running around on Arden Street to cause absolute havoc.
They only got rid of that because it trod on Auskick kid.
Yeah.
So Richmond beat Carlton. Carlton were actually quite impressive.
Yeah, man. There was when they kicked the first 5 goals, there was a lot of optimism going around the neutral fans. Yeah. And but then,
it's terrifying.
Echoing a lot of people who know a lot more about the game than us, but Cripps and Curnow, they can go a bit, those two.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, and that's the only 2 Carlton players I know.
Yeah.
I know there was Cruiser because he was injured. And
that's
watching him jumping up and down.
Pretty much.
Yeah, standard. People think that's his name. It's a hyphenated.
So Carlton were not bad. The idea Carlton are improving terrifies me more than anything else.
I guess they're the Richmond now. So
you think they're going to?
Well, they've got the longest grand final drought now. Did you know that? Apart from GWS and Gold Coast.
Oh, you mean appearing in the grand final, not premiership?
North Melbourne and Carlton are the only 2 clubs, apart from the new ones, to not appear in a grand final this century.
Yeah, 95.
99.
Oh, 99, yep.
Yeah. Oh, because Melbourne were in 2000.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That was a great day.
Terrific day. We should have the other thing because we have to talk about Melbourne losing with Mac. They were terrible in the first half. They decided not to defend. They were down by 80 points at half. Or they'd let 80 points be scored against them. Yeah. They were down by I think 27 points at half time. Yeah. And then they came back. Petrarca was really good for them. Geelong looked pretty good even without Ablett. Looked very good. If he stays, his injury is the only thing that would worry you about Ablett, not anything else. But Melbourne had a chance with less than a minute to go to have a shot. Max Gawn 30 metre. They had a few, but Max Gawn 30 metres out. He should have kicked that goal.
I'd already texted out a congratulatory text to send to my Demons supporting mate. And by the way, I watched this with you, Titus.
Yeah.
Can I compliment you? You handled that so much better than I would have.
Do you know why? I think I was both reeling from the cricket stuff and just... There has got to a point with me with Melbourne where I just...
You just expect the worst, don't you?
No, like inside I'm being torn apart, but you just kind of
on the outside, there's no
that's
point
what was
there.
going to happen. I mean, also, I was staring at 27 points down that it was going to be a horrendous day. Yeah. There was at least enough to go, if they can just get there. The problem is we've become Richmond pre their premiership.
Yeah.
We've now lost 2 seasons in a row, missing out on finals by losing to terrible teams.
Oh, Ninthman.
Yeah, we are. We have, though. We've lost to Carlton one year, we lost to Collingwood the next, and we missed out on percentage. We've set up, when we miss out on percentage this year, we're all going to look back at that Max Gawn kick and go, if he just hit that one goal.
Exactly. I missed the first 3 quarters of the Melbourne-Geelong game, but I watched the last quarter, and one thing that I just couldn't get out of my mind is that every time Melbourne sort of went forward or looked like they were about to break it open, who got the ball? Either Selwood or Ablett. I thought, they just can turn on when they need to, Geelong.
Luke wrote in, should Max Gawn have tampered with the ball before he shot at goal? I think that's spot on. Ross Green wrote in, has Serge's cardiologist prescribed following another team after Melbourne being a significant risk factor for his post-heart surgery complications?
No.
Have you? Because that's got to have contributed a fair bit to your heart problems. Melbourne Football Club.
Oh, yeah, just being a Melbourne supporter. I mean, you wouldn't say it was directly responsible, but it couldn't have helped, put it that way.
Dan Vaughan wrote in, after the D's losing on the siren and Australia blatantly cheating, do you think I'm finally disappointed enough to understand how my parents feel about me?
Dan,
Dan
needs
a hug.
You got problems greater than we can solve.
If you're a Demons fan, 13 11 14 is Lifeline's number.
Also, I'd add, Dan, I don't think you are disappointed enough to know how your parents feel about you.
As I always say, if you can't kick a bloke when he's down, when can you kick him?
I know, it's much harder to kick someone who's standing up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Damien Priscino wrote in, all AFLX winners lost in round 1. Do we need a bigger break between AFLX and the regular season? This is a cracker of a question.
So that's Paul.
T-shirt.
No, hang on.
How's
Even if there's another good question,
Damien
he's
not
getting a
working for
T-shirt.
Champion Data? He's the only person that's picked that up.
He's the only one, exactly.
It's not long enough.
No.
Is he right though? Because Port won, didn't they?
I don't think they did. Who cares?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, I think they did. I think he's wrong about that.
Jack Watts, was on fire.
Jack Watts led them to the promised land.
Yeah.
We can get to Jack Watts in a second.
I think it was the Crows that won. No, it was the Crows. Sorry, it was the Crows, the Lions,
so he's
and
right.
the D's.
He's right. Oh, that's a cracking question, Damien. You get a T-shirt. Hamish Mackey wrote in. Hamish McKee, sorry. Are you continuing to support Melbourne?
Oh, slab. You have to buy a slab.
Oh, I left my phone on. How about that? And someone actually called me. That's why I never put it on silent. Are you continuing to support Melbourne so that when you do die, the sweet release of the grave will feel just that extra bit more satisfying? Now, you know what, Hamish?
Got some beauties there.
That is just spot on. That is exactly. I long for it. Probably I'll go to hell, which will just be continuing to watch the Demons. And the other thing that came out of all of this was Collingwood played Hawthorn. Collingwood were terrible.
Shocking, weren't they?
We're just telling ourselves
that.
Of
the round. I mean,
because we don't want
it's not
Hawthorn
all
to be
gloom
good.
and doom. Collingwood were terrible.
I think we're going to really enjoy Collingwood season. The thing that amazed me out of all of Collingwood's game is Hawthorn weren't good.
Weren't they?
But no,
Tell me that.
Hawthorn weren't good. They looked their skills are well off what they were, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense with that. They've barely got the same players, but they were not. It wasn't like you look at the scoreboard. If you didn't watch the game, you go, "Oh, Hawthorn were all right." Well, they weren't. Collingwood just let them off the hook time and time again. Collingwood's skills And Collingwood fans know this because you could hear it in the groans from the crowd. Collingwood's skills are just abysmal. Like, it reminds me of watching Melbourne 5 or 6 years ago.
Their kicking into the forward line was just appalling.
But like handballing to people less than 5 metres from them and missing completely. Kicks that just go nowhere near anyone, like not even an opponent, just into, you're just going, why are they kicking there? Like, just not when they're not rushed, they make mistakes as much as when they're rushed. Like, just bizarre behaviour.
4 or 5 times, committed the cardinal sin of handballing to a bloke who was not moving and surrounded by the opponents. I thought, you learn this in junior footy.
It was amazing.
At AFL level, that shouldn't happen. It may happen once in a game if you're under enormous pressure, but for it to happen time and again, there's something wrong there.
Hawthorn are the most experienced team in the league still. They've got their combined games are 2,768. Their average age is 26. And that's the most in the league.
And that's without Mitchell and Hodge.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Gibson, and they've lost a heap of players.
Lewis. All those blokes. They're all gone.
But they did recruit Doris Day. So
that really bumps it up.
And
Doris Day.
George Burns.
You and your celebrity references.
I was trying to think who's the oldest person who's still alive that I can think of.
Is Doris Day still alive?
Doris Day is still alive.
Oh,
good on her.
Jeez,
See, that's the great thing about this podcast.
You better hope so.
You also learn something.
You better hope she didn't drop off the perch this morning.
Yeah, that's going to be awkward.
What was amazing is Tom Mitchell, we mentioned this before, 54 possessions. Now, at no point did it look like anyone was going near him.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that Nathan Buckley has Mitchell in his Supercoach team because it's the only thing that explains the way you approach this, because it was mad. Like, you were watching it. Now, Buckley said before that Mitchell's little touches, he said very disparagingly, off the back half don't really hurt us. And I'm like, well, they do on the scoreboard and in the context of the game,
half
so
a dozen
I don't know.
Yeah. But 54 is going to hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, and I was watching he was getting the ball out to other midfielders and stuff, so it wasn't like he was missing every target.
He reads the ball. He reads the play beautifully, and he doesn't look like he's fast by foot or hand, but he always has just that one pace to get it out to somebody. So to say his little touches don't hurt is just madness.
Mason Cox elbowed, I forget who it was, one of the Hawthorn players. He'll be probably out for next week.
Yeah. He would have.
Darcy Moore was
played dropped him anyway because Mason
lot.
Cox was terrible.
I think him being suspended is a great outcome for Collingwood.
Yeah.
They played Darcy Moore out of position. Like, the whole thing just was bizarre. Like, watching it again, I know we're going off one game, so I know the overreacting to round one.
So you reckon? I didn't see enough.
I saw nothing that made me, if I was a Collingwood supporter, have any hope for this.
So the Darcy Moore experiment, which they've been talking all summer, we're putting him down back. You don't reckon work?
But why would you? I mean, they've got no forward line.
They've got no forwards anyway.
He's their most.
He is a great, exciting player.
He's going to be good.
Yeah.
He already is.
I know he already is, but he's going to be like. So you just why move him? Like they just. It didn't seem to do anything in particular. They don't know what they're doing. That's all that comes. When you just watch a team and you just, like, we saw this under the Neild years, right? You just watch and you go, these guys don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
like, that's just the training stands aren't there. They seem to get injured their play. Players are injured so often that they're either terrible at screening them for injury or terrible. The training that they do for them and the recovery work and everything is terrible. I don't know what it is, but
let's enjoy it.
But let's just sit back and really enjoy it.
It was like last week, Jonathan Brown went and watched Collingwood
That's right,
train.
I was going to say
he said they looked shocking on the training track.
Yeah.
And Pendlebury came out and naturally had to defend his club and his teammates. He said, oh, no, this was a certain... we obviously... He made it sound like
this was Casual Friday.
They planned to train badly that week.
Well, at least they trained as a Melbourne
play
supporter.
as you train, as the old cliche goes.
Bernie Ralph wrote in, do you have Nathan Buckley's number? I heard neither of us will have anything to do this winter. We mentioned...
It's very hard to get sacked from that. The only job it's harder to get sacked from is manager of Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, that's right. I just don't think... Eddie at some point has to throw... Now that Eddie has a contract for a bit longer, or he's been voted in for another term, It's early. Yeah, it's early in that tournament.
Was it like Putin? Was there anyone going against him?
Putin at least had other people running for the position,
and he's still got 104% of the
and
vote.
Putin's killed less. And Putin's killed less people.
Eddie, you need another opponent. Get Cameron Bancroft. He'll agree to do anything.
If you do
what do you reckon,
fine, Cameron?
Gentlemen? What do you reckon is the pass mark for Bucks this year at Collingwood? Because
but it's finals.
It was pretty.
It was finals last year.
Yeah, but it was pretty low last year.
But last year was fine. But that's what I'm saying. Like last year, even he said, and he's the guy that just keeps failing the test, and they just pass him anyway. Like
that's what I'm saying. If they finish 15th again this year or whatever, what do they do? They're going to flick him or?
Well, they've signed him for an extra year, which is going to come back. I mean, the only scenario where this works out for them is if he does a Damien Hardwick. That re-signing Damien Hardwick a couple of years ago looked like a monumental bonehead decision, and only a premiership really.
Maybe Eddie should think about a succession plan.
Bring Malthouse back.
Bring Malthouse back.
But that's the thing. Like, unlike the Hardwick stuff, Hardwick at least the players he got them close a few times, and you could argue they were unlucky and. They hadn't put in this crazy succession plan. Hardwick had inherited, as Brendan Gale said in Yellow and Black, Conrad Marshall's book. He said he had inherited Hardwick an absolute disaster zone of the
after
team.
Terry Wallace.
Was
there someone in between? No,
yeah. So he said he inherited a terrible team. So we give.
I think there was.
No, there was something.
I can't remember.
Knights.
No, Knights was at Essendon.
Not Knights, sorry. Knights. I'm thinking of Knights to play. Who was between?
Who was it? Danny Frawley?
No, he was
Wallace. Free Wallace. So anyway, Gale said
Jade Rawlings did it for a little while.
He said Hardwick. Well, Hardwick's been there a long time. He said he inherited an absolute mess, right? Yeah. No one can say that about Buckley. He inherited a team that had won a premiership one year. The next year made the grand final. Still had one of the youngest lists in the league.
Yeah.
And has built it steadily into being a worse side. So that's where I just think...
They haven't played a final since Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister.
Is that true?
The second time. I remember... the second time. Because I remember they lost to Port Adelaide 2013. There was the night Tony Abbott beat Kevin Rudd in the election. And I remember just going, well, at least something good's happened tonight with Collingwood losing.
So, did we watch the North Suns play up in Cairns? Who would have thought that Cairns this time of year was a bad place to hold an AFL
I thought I was watching, but I was stuck on Channel 31. It was Fish Cam, and I couldn't tell the difference.
It was... sure, because the Gold Coast, they've been kicked out of the Gold Coast because of the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
But surely, did they have to go that far north in cyclone season?
Well, for those that didn't see, it was pouring down with rain. Yeah. You picked up on the banner.
Yeah,
the Gold Coast Suns
This
banner.
Is my new segment, by the way. Should we do it now?
This
is called Banner Watch. I think the Gold Coast Suns had... It's either a terrible banner or it's the greatest banner of all time. It was... first of all, it looked like an under-11s banner and it was big and it just had a curtain for them to run through.
Yeah, that's right. And in fairness to both North and the Suns... They were doing it in absolute, it was torrential rain. Tropical rain. So the North banner, I couldn't even read because it just had fallen apart.
Yeah, and
they still ran through it.
People are blaming North for that. No, that's fine, North.
Oh, no, in those conditions, I don't know how...
I don't know how they even got it up there and got it onto the ground, let alone unfurl it.
Well, North had an aborted landing in the plane. Flying up there, yeah, which is talk about a metaphor for this season, but that's sort of the conditions they were flying into.
So the Gold Coast one said a couple of boring lines, but the sun shine bright up here, and there's a great photo. I put it on my Instagram. Just all these people in ponchos, standing knee deep in floodwater, and but brilliantly their banner looked like a pair of shorts, and they said the sun shines bright up here, right where the arsehole would have been. If that's intentional, Gold Coast, that's the best banner of all time. Well done. But shockingly, there were some other banners during the week. Collingwood had a weird one. I think they'd given it a go, which was good. Our Demons went with "The future's so bright, we got to wear shades."
Did they really?
Some caricatures of some players wearing sunglasses.
That came back to bite us.
Yeah. Hawthorn went with a very creative congratulations, Jack Gunston on 150 games. Collingwood went with love us or hate us, there's no in between. Tonight will remind you why we're no one's second team. Now, the team didn't do that. So it's obviously the cheer squad saying, by the way, we're going to be absolute pricks tonight.
I think also that could be read two ways.
And West Coast have got rid of the banner altogether.
They have too.
They just had a giant inflatable eagle's head that they ran out. It looked like an NRL,
like the NFL.
country
They ran out of its beak.
It was
so North had the banner that sort of hung from a helium-filled balloon. That was their
permanent one.
They had that for a while.
Yeah. Because West Coast banners last year were terrible. It was like play your role.
So has West Coast said when it's not going to have a banner at all?
If they have said it, I've missed that press release.
But you just saw them not have one, basically.
Yeah, and this is an absolute disgrace. This is worse than ball tampering.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is a
Gill and McLaughlin scrap West Coast out of the league or move them to Tasmania. They don't deserve a team.
Yeah. It was a shocking thing. Having said that, it was very big and detailed, and it would have cost somebody a bomb.
Yeah, because it looks like their new logo, which, because it's based off the Hawthorn one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this game though between the Suns and
Kangas.
and the Kangas they were really playing in water up to the bet. It looked like someone was.
It was like junior footy.
I was sure someone was going to drown, and at no point has the Gold Coast lifesaver colours been so appropriate.
The red and the yellow.
Yeah, there was one point when the cheer squad the Gold Coast cheer squad waved their flags, and all the players started swimming between them. That's how bad it was.
It was very bad. Jack Siebel got the bends.
It was terrible. It was amazing that they played up there, and then you kind of say, like, what's that going to do to like North's and the Suns' legs? Like, you'd be exhausted after that.
Yeah, and North play on Friday, the Good Friday match.
Down at Eddie.
It was played in North Queensland. Lucky there weren't any Chinese tourists there, or there would have been drownings for sure.
But yeah, in North Queensland as well, that's croc country. That's pretty dangerous.
There was a bull shark out on one wing. In fact, all the goals were scored up.
Crockett slid it out in the ground.
All the goals were all 12 goals. There was only 12 goals in the match. Were all kicked up one end.
Is that right?
Because of the current. The Bulldogs.
There's a rip.
Yeah, there's a rip. That's right. I've been dying to talk about this. The Bulldogs spend their off-season focusing on who should write their banners and what gate Susan Alberti should be allowed into free matches. That didn't pay off for them. They played the Giants. They were so bad, but then I also felt sorry for them because Liberatore did his ACL, the other knee to terrible. What he did 2 years ago.
My question is...
I felt really sorry for Bulldog supporters because...
Really? Because you weren't in the text to me.
Because it's the worst start you can basically have to a season, is it not?
What could have made it worse?
Let's hand it to Danny now.
Yeah. No, there's always worse. If Bontempelli had done his knee as well, we could have.
That's the only. Like, there's not many scenarios because they look like they had. I don't understand.
And Toby Green, at least he kicked goals, not our players' faces, but it's
he kicked 4.
Dire.
Jeremy Cameron kicked 6.
Here's my question. Not having seen the game, only saw the result. Were the Doggies that bad, or are GWS going to be that good finally?
Oh, no, the Doggies were that bad.
Oh, yeah, it was a bit of both, but GWS were really good. They were
when they're on song and they move the ball.
Yeah.
But you think a couple of years ago, these teams were at least probably equal, and the Doggies got over them up there.
Oh, even last year, our first game against them was 2 points.
This was... I mean, the GWS looked good, but, I thought the Bulldogs were... you think about this. I don't pretend to be as insightful into football as Luke Beveridge by a long shot, but there's occasionally things happen where you love the explanation of this. Easton Wood was played in the forward line, didn't get a goal, had 7 possessions. Meanwhile, down in their defence, you've got Jeremy Cameron kicking 6 and Toby Green kicking 4. Now, tell me Easton Wood down there wouldn't have been...
Put your best backman back there.
Might have been so there was no rebound, there was no intercept marking. There was... And I just don't get the... I don't get the logic of it. Now, if Easton Wood was, getting his hands on it regularly up forward and he was their only forward option, fine. But he wasn't. So you're not losing anything by... Even
it's
if it's just
Bevo trying new things. Because he did transfer Easton Wood from this, semi-decent player to an amazing player by letting him play a bit more aggressively in defence.
Yeah,
and that pretty much helped us become the great side we were in 15 and 16.
Yeah.
So just trialling something. I mean, that's what Bevo does. He always likes to tinker and stuff. But
it was so just
2020 hindsight.
Danny, can you answer this?
But this was in real time, Danny. As I was watching it, I was thinking, at what point do you go, this has been fun, but we didn't just stop leaking goals. We need to at least stay
the thing I've always
vaguely
wondered,
in the competition.
Why is Easton Wood always referred to as Easton Wood?
It just sounds so good together.
Not just Wood.
I know. It's because it's such a good name.
There are a handful of players, and there have been for years, that are always called by both names.
It just sounds so good. It works. The alliteration of it's perfect.
Because his name is Easton. He's captain of Western Bulldogs.
It's not alliteration. Easton.
No, it just rolls off the tongue.
No, it just rolls off the tongue, rather.
Okay.
Andrew Byrne wrote in, this is an interesting one. How do I stop my white loads turning out blue-grey? Asking for a friend who works at Carlton. What do we think of the shorts?
Apparently they had fake pockets on there.
Yeah, well, that's what I put something out on Twitter because it looked to me like, remember, you'd have a pair of your favourite Levi's you wore until that faded, and the back pockets would come off almost, and you'd get that sort of V shape on your arse, both where the pockets were. Yeah. That's what it looked like with the Carlton shorts. But then somebody said, no, they're patches of chamois, which they have sewn into the shorts to dry their hands on. They've had them there for years.
Oh, but you can just see them better, can you, with these?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, why couldn't they have just done it in the same colour as the...
Because, when someone hands you a paper bag full of cash, you got to put it somewhere.
Well, that's right. Or keep your yellow sticky tape,
I did... You think about it, we went into the weekend with the biggest issue in sport... Carlton blue-grey shorts, and we left it with that just being who cares?
With the Australian cricket captain may not ever play the game again,
Now, one thing, talking about things getting overlooked, I completely forgot the excitement of Melbourne losing, pretty much on the siren, the Australian cricket team tearing itself apart out of nowhere. The fact that the Grand Prix was on in Melbourne on the weekend,
is that why I couldn't get a park?
Did you even notice it?
Only because a mate of mine went, and I texted him going, "What are you doing?"
But did you watch it?
God, no.
No. I usually always will watch the Grand Prix in the Melbourne one.
I mean, you think back 10, 15 years ago, it was like the hottest ticket in town. The Grand Prix on next weekend or this or that.
Yeah.
And even on the Thursday, everyone would go. But it just, every year it seems to sneak up on.
And it's crept in, like with the AFL now overlaps, everything overlaps.
And they used to have it on like the
long weekend.
Not the Queen's birthday, but
the
Labor Day long weekend.
That's right.
They'd have Moomba and the Grand Prix.
Yeah, so now the AFL competes with AFL. Yeah. The cricket team blowing itself up didn't help it get any coverage because every sports journo had turned their mind to that, like on social media. I was on Twitter all day because it's one of those days that Twitter is built for.
Days,
and I didn't see any mention of the Grand Prix at all.
No.
Which is kind of amazing, like not at all.
Who won? Was it Luigi or Bowser?
Sebastian Vettel.
It's It's the third time in Melbourne.
Is he the one that Mark Webber hates? Do we hate
everyone
him as
hates Vettel,
I think Mark Webber hates everyone.
Oh, okay. All right. But
mainly himself.
Smiley Dan didn't win. That's really all that matters.
He edged ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who went off pole. Now, it was a race where there was no overtaking.
That's the problem with
it was literally
Formula One racing.
Yeah, I watched some of the highlights.
It's so boring.
That went for about 10 seconds.
So I've always maintained this, not just Formula One, but even the V8s and motorsport in general. It's as boring as bats on TV, but is exciting and fantastic live.
Oh, is it? Should I go to a live one?
Yeah, perhaps.
You know what? You know what's great about you go see it live. My thing about going and seeing it live is the cars are, when you see them go first the first few times, they're so fast. It is amazing, like it's amazing to watch, and the noise is it's like nothing else. So. And they do this. The best thing of going to the Grand Prix ever, and they usually do this on I think the day before the race. They send a V8 car off on the track, and it starts and goes, and then about 30 seconds later they send the BMW pace car, so it's a hotted up street legal
right,
car.
yep.
They send that first. About half a minute later, they send the V8.
Yep.
And then they send about another half an hour.
Half an hour later.
About 30 seconds later, they then send the F1. And they all finish at the exact same time, pretty much.
Ah.
So it gives you this amazing sense of how fast the Formula One cars really are. They are amazing machines.
They should send a horse out to begin with. Someone running. Usain Bolt.
That's right. So you watch that, and that's kind of where you get the sense of how amazing it is. So being there live is kind of great.
And what they're missing too at the Grand Prix these days is the celebrity race. Remember that?
Is that not on anymore?
No, they haven't had that for years.
Because they were worried that there was injuries one year, and the insurance became too much as well. Because famous people are expensive to insure.
But they only ever put them in like Suzuki Swifts. But I do remember, I think it was a mate of mine.
Someone flipped one though.
Yeah, there's been plenty of accidents over the years. There was the year Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits.
Oh,
he broke his hand, which you would think
in Melbourne
for the lead guitarist of Dire Straits, this is not
ideal.
Not ideal. But as it turns out, he was that hated by all the other celebrities. They all thought it was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah,
he hadn't endeared himself to the rest of them.
He did not endear themselves.
Why don't they try and make it a bit more Melbourne flavour? Because you can watch any Grand Prix and they all look the same. So make it a different flavour for each city. Put a tram in there and some people get stuck behind the tram.
Have a hook turn.
Yeah.
That's what you really want to have if you go
have a whole
no one knows how to do it.
A whole section of the track just for hooning.
So anyway, that's been and gone. And look, people either watch for hoping a crash happens or hoping that there's a lot of overtaking and it's exciting, and there was neither of those.
Because sometimes there's Kiss.
Yeah, they used to do that. They used to have big bands. I don't think they did.
It got completely overlooked for
They had Daryl Braithwaite and 4 white horses.
Yeah.
I think.
It's amazing.
Missy Higgins performing in a shower.
Last week it was announced Andrew Demetrio has joined the NBL as a advisor on. They have this new advisory
the NBL
board.
have been going so well.
I know, they hadn't put a foot wrong, and now they've got him. It's a chance for him. He said he was looking forward to annoying a whole new group of sports fans. So get ready, NBL fans, to have the prices of everything shoot through the roof.
Andrew, because he has done so well with Acquire Learning, didn't he?
All his various ones. And you got to say, looking back on the Demetrio years, everyone talks about they were like kind of stable, but it was all about making money.
Yeah.
The fans came a very different distant second, especially towards his last few years where fixturing was horrendous.
And getting the NRL whacked. Yeah. Getting minor any other code of football. Yeah, I want him dead.
But remember he put Carlton Collingwood on a Sunday night in the middle of winter?
Yeah.
That's right.
That suits a comedian.
There was
I work Friday, Saturday nights, finally. If there could be a game on Tuesday mornings,
he did so many things that were just, all over. Now, I looked at this advisory group. It's an advisory board, which Larry Kesselman, who's turned around the NBL.
Yeah, he owns the NBL and he's done a magnificent
owns Dodo
job.
And various other things. He bought the NBL for $7 million.
Like a lot of extremely successful, self-made billionaire businessmen, he doesn't like taking advice too much from others. So that's where I reckon the Demetrio thing, this could turn out really interestingly.
But he seems like he makes a good idea. He's not a tinkler.
That's right. No, he's a gun. I just reckon the two egos head to head may not.
I think he's
work.
brought him on for advice on commercial contracts and the new TV deals, and I think that's probably where Andrew does excel if he's not running the rest of fan engagement and stuff too.
Does sound like a dodgy private eye firm, doesn't it?
Or a suburban law firm.
Yeah.
The thing I looked at this though is, I looked at this recruiting group, this advisory board to see who's on it, and there's 20 people on it.
20?
Is that right? The NBL got a 20-person
advisory board. It's not their board. It's their Andrew's not on their board. He's on their advisory board.
The super group that Steve Hocking's putting together.
Sort of, although they've dropped the super group.
Right. What you do?
As a name, they're calling it something else, and that's. I noticed
they've got a different sponsor.
Well, I noticed with the AFL, that group, the AFL's one. There's no fans or anything like that.
No,
it's the same. Yeah, they don't.
What do they know?
That's right. Well, picking one fan's hard to choose. Even more exciting. This is probably we probably buried the lead here, and this should have been the lead-off story. Etihad Stadium have created a Twitter account.
I found this the other day.
Called Ralph the Roof, which is basically their roof talking on Twitter.
The roof, the Etihad Stadium roof has its own Twitter account now.
They've given it a name, Ralph the Roof.
And now Ralph...
Spelled RALF.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it tweets out things like, I'll be open today.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a lot of Twitter accounts that say that.
They've spelled it Ralph
broadcast.
with an F. Like, you know, that dodgy boyfriend in The Sound of Music. Remember? And
You
Ralph...
were going with me for a Doris Day reference.
Whose idea was this?
Someone in marketing.
Somebody in marketing.
Does it say anything else apart from I'm open, I'm
It
shut?
basically says stuff like, no, not much. It tries to have a bit of fun occasionally,
Yeah.
but it's mainly just saying,
And
hey guys, today I'm going to be closed for this match, or today I'm going to be open for this.
I think Ralph said on the Saturday, he said, you know, hey, good news for everyone. I'm going to be open today, so you can all get wear your sunglasses or something.
Yeah, it's sort of that.
Yeah, it was champagne comedy.
And I was like, should I follow this for the comedic day? But then I thought, I don't want to encourage him
Yeah.
because it's got about 200 followers.
Does it at
You
least
see-
like have does like the roof open and shut for it to talk? Like, you know,
That's
hello, I am
Well,
the
see,
roof.
they haven't just stopped there at Etihad.
I want it
Ralph
to get
the Roof.
hacked and Ralph
They're
the
gonna-
Roof goes nuts on the whole bunch of issues.
They've also, I think, created Brian the Unmanned Turnstile and Alan the Closed Ticket Window. So,
Oh, wow. Look, there's Rachel, the overpriced hot dog.
and Kevin the Chicken Salt guy, you know.
What about Concrete the Surface?
No, that's just a good idea. That's not a name.
Matt Cassar wrote in, me and my mates have a new drinking game we are going to play for the first time this Friday night. Every time Bruce asks a rhetorical question, you have to have a shot. Should we call emergency in advance? There isn't a Bruce drinking game that's ever ended well.
No.
I would say it's been nice knowing you, Matt, but your days on... Enjoy your last week on Earth.
What's with all the anti-Bruce rhetoric going on
I don't
at the
think
moment?
there's sometimes an anti-Bruce rhetoric, and then this could be read either way. Sometimes there's a fondness, but for Bruce's
Yeah.
rather.
I've heard a lot of people going Bruce.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, I have this.
He's the last
A lot
bulwark
of people
against-
bag Bruce, but it's not done maliciously. Though,
Sometimes
you know.
it's fondly.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's a bit of a caricature of
Is
himself.
there any
Yeah, sometimes.
commentator that people actually like?
Not many.
That's the
Nah.
no, there's none. Name me one that you've never heard a bad thing about.
Dennis Comedy.
Dennis Comedy.
No, it's not. No,
Mike
I've heard
Williams.
people
Not
say
many,
that.
though. It's all percentage based.
Yeah, that's
It's how
true.
much they hate you. And I actually think like Comedy and Bruce are two of the more liked.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not a sizable...
As you say, it's a percentage on
It's
like
how
really,
much you hate it.
Like it's 5% with Bruce and Comedy.
See, I
Just
judge him how
right
they-
up to 97
Yeah.
with Brian Taylor.
See, I can't stand BT.
Yeah.
I don't mind Hamish. A lot of people hate Hamish, but to me, Hamish is just
Yeah, I
pretty
like Hamish.
pretty
Hey,
straight.
yeah,
Like, he
Hamish
doesn't-
is straight and
he-
reasonably bland, but he gets the
he's
message
like,
across.
and
And does
so
well.
there's a few like that I actually think are good, but then there's a few where you just wonder. I like Richo. I think Richo is at least got a level of insightfulness and at least comes across as a pleasant person. Some of the others in Channel 7, you're just going like.
Lingy,
what?
great bloke, but I reckon he's just no good. as a
Lingy just
special
states the bleeding obvious. Like
Yeah,
it's,
or makes too many mistakes that just shouldn't be made.
yeah.
I like Lingy. But then now when I'm
a good
thinking
bloke,
about it,
but, you know.
I like all of them.
Yeah.
There's none that I'd really.
You work
have
at
strong-
Channel
you work
7.
at Channel
I do work
Seven,
at Channel 7, but yeah.
You've been paid off.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone does a great job.
It's in his contract to
man,
say everyone is awesome.
Have you guys seen Australian Spartan? What a great show. What? Now that is...
Bloody, it was on again
What's on
last
after
night.
the tennis, Danny?
It's almost just desserts. Never got the praise
Hang
of
on, are
dessert.
you on Fango at the moment? They should have never got rid of this. Last question for the podcast. Sam Thrunk. That's a cracking name. Yeah. With so much sport to discuss, do you think you can still find a way to mention Serge nearly being the voice of Bob Morrison?
I did not know this.
You knew this?
No, I
do I have
didn't.
to tell the
listened to our
story again?
podcast
Not
before.
unless I'm on.
No, I don't blame you.
really
I
not
never
know
listened
this?
For
to
the
it.
fans. For the fans. Come
The
on. let me-
fans have heard this like literally.
Yeah, every second.
I bring this up on well, it's long story short. Serge got asked to audition for a show. He didn't know what the show was at first, and they said, "Oh, it's for a
talking dog.
talking dog,
Yeah,
like in
yeah,
a
yeah.
sitcom." And can you do it? So Serge wanders in and does the audition. And, it sounds like this dog has had a hard life. Smoked a lot of Winnie Blues, drank a lot of bourbon.
The
was the
producer
voice-
actually said to me afterwards, actually, Bob Morrison is going to be this sprightly little, cute dog that bounds around, a little sort of Scottish Terrier kind of thing. And unfortunately, you sound like a drunken bloodhound.
And so I've often on this podcast when Serge, when he
that,
told me that, blew my mind because that show bombed in 6 weeks or something or less.
The voice was the guy who was voice of the G? Or was it
Stig Weemers.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yep.
And I would pay to hear that show redubbed with you. It would mean it was such a completely different show.
Such a dog of a show. Pardon the pun.
I get it.
It's not even on YouTube, I don't think.
Oh,
no one's even gone to the trouble of encoding it.
I think they wiped the tapes at Channel 9.
Well, I've got to say, Sam, we didn't think we'd have time to fit it in, but we, of course, have managed to.
This is like I was drinking with a mate who I go to victory games with, and he just casually slipped into the conversation. It's like that time that I was on Double Dare, and then I just went, "What?
Hang on, go back a step." Yeah.
And he said, "Haven't I told you this story?" I go, "Yeah, we cut off. We're not going to the game."
Yeah, that's right.
Not until I hear this.
Well, it's been a long podcast. There's
T-shirt.
so much happened.
Titus.
We need to award the T-shirt. Did you have one there? We already sort of did.
Yeah, which one? Was that one? I can't remember it, but I thought it was a magnificent question.
So the one you said, give him a T-shirt, you're now asking me to find.
Yeah.
Let's find it. There was a few. Actually, I think we could give away more than one because there were quite a few
There were some good questions.
Good ones.
Here's a bad question. What does the T-shirt look like? I've never seen these T-shirts.
Oh, well, I'll give you one. You can have one.
It's got the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour logo.
Oh.
See, and
What does that look like?
we'll give you one, and you can with texter
Add
or yellow
myself.
tape add Danny plus Danny on the bottom.
That's Danny and Francis Leach.
We had a couple that came in. We had I'm trying to find the one that you said that should win. You're not helping me out here at all.
No, I'm not.
I like Damien Presino's one. All AFLX winners lost in round one. Do we need a bigger break between the AFLX and regular season?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
that one gets one. And there was another one that you'd picked out there,
but
Serge.
it's not on my printout.
Well, I'll have to now go back and listen to the whole podcast for my
that's
sins.
right, that's your job.
No one should have to do that.
So whoever we mentioned earlier, you will be getting one. Just Serge's attention to detail turns out to be as bad. As mine. Thanks everyone. Been a good week. We're gonna. I think we'll be able to fit in another one. I've got the comedy festival starting Thursday night.
Good Friday on Friday.
And
Now,
Good
tell
Friday's
me,
on Friday?
Is there footy on Friday?
Yeah, North Melbourne.
North and
playing
Saints.
again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolute disgrace.
I
It's not
wasn't
the
sure
Bulldogs.
whether it was going to come in this year or next.
No, I think it's happening.
It happened last year.
Thankfully, happened last year.
Bulldogs played the Kangas.
He does occasionally watch football.
Jeez, I'm across that, aren't I?
This is bang on. So we'll try and fit one in later the week. We'd have the comedy festival kicking off and everything. If you Thursday night's my opening one, but then I'm on for the whole length of the comedy festival. So I'd love people to get on down. And with all the stuff happening in the cricket,
Oh, you got
there's
plenty,
my
plenty
show
to work
written
on.
overnight. We'll see you later in the week.